These documents were given to Edgar Fouche by a friend called Dale and are in his book Alien Rapture The Chosen. Now, the original documents had some parts blacked out, and then these documents were retyped and some of the names were filled in and some of the missing parts were filled in by Brad Steiger. So I'm going to read through these documents now just as a point of reference. First document is the presidential order, which is an unnumbered order to or from President Ronald Wilson Reagan, brackets authorised by proxy. It's a revised charter for the Mars-Jupiter 12 Committee, February 14th, 1987. And it's marked Ultra Top Secret MJ12 Eyes Only, and then this particular document has 3 pages. Presidential Order, February 14th, 1987. By virtue of the authority vested in me as Chairman of the Mars-Jupiter 12 Committee, an ultra-secret committee established by President Truman, with full consent of the permanent voting members of the Mars-Jupiter 12 Committee, this presidential order by proxy is established and ordered as follows. 1. Charter. There is hereby established the strategic group of key government personnel called the Mars-Jupiter 12 Committee, referred to as MJ12, with authority to take action to the maximum extent possible in relation to foreign or alien data, materials, information, technology, artifacts and extraterrestrial biological entities, all hereafter referred to as foreign artifacts, which may bear upon the national security of the United States of America. Amendments to this charter and foreign artifacts, materials and information shall be classified to the highest levels available to the US government. The MJ12 Committee's actions and directives will be referred to as the Programme outside the MJ12 membership. The MJ12 Committee shall have sole United States governmental authority to direct each FA aspect or substance and to make such FA available to the President and or to each member of the MJ12 Committee and to such departments and officials of the government as MJ12 Chairman may determine, and to carry out, when requested by the MJ12 Chairman, such supplementary activities as may facilitate the securing of FA important for national security not now available to the government, and direct the acquisition, use, disposal, storage and research as deemed necessary for current and future national security of the United States. All US laws, regulations and directives are secondary to achieving these goals, not subject to the boundaries of the US proper, providing for the integrity of the US national security and protecting the sanctity of the US Constitution. Control. The several departments and agencies of the Government and Department of Defense as identified by the MJ12 Committee shall be notified by departmental directive to consider any FA as highly classified and alert the DoD Foreign Technology Division immediately on the occasion of any instance, happenstance or encounter with FA. Directives will be developed by the MJ12 Committee, the DoD, the DIR, NSA and the President as determined by the MJ12 Chairman, detailing coordination, handling, transportation, isolation, quarantine, security, research, storage and disposal of any and all aspects of FA, make available to the MJ12 Chairman any and all such reports of FA or any other pertinent undefined requests relating to national security as may be requested from this date forward. Page 3 of 3. The MJ12 Committee Chairman has the authority to make any decision without regard to civil or federal law or take any action in order to provide for national security of the US. 3. Voting members. The Director of the National Security Agency, NSA, shall be the Chairman and the current President of the US the Co-Chairman, if the President is a member of the MJ12 Committee. The MJ12 Chairman has the authority to exclude unstable subsequent permanent members, including but not limited to the President of the United States. The MJ12 Chairman may appoint subsequent members to the MJ12 Committee, as may the committee by majority consensus. Each member must take an oath to the United States and swear to abide by this charter and the MJ12 Chairman's directives, and to further provide plausible deniability, deny culpability, action, association of, by and for this Charter to any and all outside of the permanent membership. Permanent voting members shall be selected from the highest ranks or positions from these various departments and agencies of the US government: President or Vice President (Executive), National Security Agency (NSA), Federal Bureau of Investigation (that's the FBI), Central Intelligence Agency (CIA), Secretary of Defense, as Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff (DoD), Military Chief of Staff (Armed Forces), Chief Justice of the Supreme Court or Attorneys General Office (Justice). No elected official shall be appointed without a majority vote of the MJ12 Committee. Religious or spiritual leaders shall be forbidden membership. Non-voting members. Additional members up to 12 may be chosen by the same method for their appropriate political influence, skills or industry position as non-voting members. Non-voting members will not be privileged with information not directly needed to accomplish their intended goal, research or objectives previously delegated by an MJ12 voting member. Budget. Within the limits of such funds as may be allocated to the MJ12 Committee, the Chairman may employ necessary personnel and make provisions for supplies, services, facilities, equipment, and as needed to provide for national security in relation to the FA. Funding will be acquired from DoD black budgets and supplemented from the US Armed Forces intelligence and security programs at the discretion of the MJ12 voting members. Admiral L.A. Gerald, the Director of the National Security Agency, is hereby designated as permanent Chairman of the MJ12 Committee by presidential order by proxy. And so we have the signing at the bottom there. But the L.A. Gerald in this particular version is a fictional character. This is a second top secret MJ12 document, labelled Eyes Only, copy 1 of 1. Briefing document Operation Majestic 12, prepared for President-elect Dwight D. Eisenhower, 18th of November 1952. Warning: this is a top-secret eyes-only document containing compartmentalized information essential to the national security of the United States. Eyes-only access to the material herein is strictly limited to those possessing Majestic 12 clearance level. Reproduction in any form of or the taking of written or mechanically transcribed notes is strictly forbidden. Subject: Operation Majestic 12, preliminary briefing for President-elect Eisenhower. Briefing Officer Rear Admiral R.H. Hillenkotter, MJ-12. This document has been prepared as a preliminary briefing only. It should be regarded as introductory to a full operations briefing intended to follow. Majestic 12 is a top-secret research and development intelligence operation responsible directly and only to the President of the United States. Operations of the project are carried out under the control of the Majestic 12 Magic 12 Group, which was established by Special Classified Executive Order CEO of President Truman on 20th September 1947 upon recommendation by Dr. Vannevar Bush and Secretary James Forrestal. See Attachment A. Members of the Majestic 12 Group were designated as follows: Rear Admiral R.H. Hillenkotter, Dr. Vannevar Bush, Secretary James Forrestal, Lieutenant General Nathan F. Twining, Lieutenant General Hoyt S. Vandenberg, Dr. Detlev Bronk, Dr. Jerome Hunsaker, Dr. Sidney W. Sowers, Mr. Gordon Gray, Dr. Donald Menzel, General Robert M. Montague, Dr. Lloyd V. Berkner. The death of Secretary Forrestal on 22nd of May 1949 created a vacancy which remained unfilled until 1st of August 1950, upon which date Louis A. Johnson was designated as permanent replacement. General Walter B. Smith replaced Rear Admiral Hillenkotter upon his reassignment to the Pacific 7th Fleet. On 24th June 1947, a civilian pilot flying over the Cascade Mountains in the state of Washington observed 9 flying disc-shaped aircraft travelling in formation at a high rate of speed. Although this was not the first known sighting of such objects, it was the first to gain widespread attention in the public media. Hundreds of reports of sightings of similar objects followed. Many of these came from highly credible military and civilian sources. These reports resulted in independent efforts by several different elements of the military to ascertain the nature and purpose of these objects in the interests of national security and national defence. A number of witnesses were interviewed, and there were several unsuccessful attempts to utilise aircraft in efforts to pursue reported discs in flight. Public reaction bordered on near hysteria at times. In spite of these efforts, little of substance was learned about the objects until a local rancher reported that one had crashed in a remote region of New Mexico, located approximately 75 miles northwest of Roswell Army Air Base, now Walker Field. On 5th July 1947, a secret operation was begun to assure recovery of the wreckage of this object for scientific study. During the course of this operation, aerial reconnaissance discovered that 5 small human-like beings had apparently ejected from the craft at some point before it exploded. These had fallen to earth about 2 miles east of the wreckage site. 4 were dead and badly damaged due to the crash trauma, action by predators, and exposure to the elements during the time period which had elapsed before their discovery. A special scientific team took charge of removing these bodies for study. See Attachment D. Civilian and military witnesses in the area were debriefed, and news reporters were given the effective cover story that the object had been a misguided weather research balloon. A covert analytic effort organised by Lieutenant General Twining and Dr. Bush, acting on the direct orders of the President, resulted in a preliminary consensus, 19th September 1947, that the disc was most likely a short-range reconnaissance craft. This conclusion was based for the most part on the craft's size and apparent lack of any identifiable provisioning. See Attachment D. A similar analysis of the 5 bodies was arranged by Dr. Bronk. It was the tentative conclusion of this group, 30th November 1947, that although these creatures are human-like in appearance, the biological evolutionary processes responsible for their development have apparently been quite different from those observed or postulated in Homo sapiens. Dr. Bronk's team has suggested the term extraterrestrial biological entities, or EBEs, be adopted as a standard term of reference for these creatures until such time as a more definitive designation can be agreed upon. Since it is virtually certain that these craft do not originate in any country on Earth, considerable speculation is centred around what their point of origin might be and how they get here. Mars was and remains a possibility, although some scientists, most notably Dr. Menzel, consider it more likely that we are dealing with beings from another solar system entirely. Numerous examples of what appear to be a form of writing were found in the wreckage. Efforts to decipher these have remained largely unsuccessful. See Attachment E. Equally unsuccessful have been efforts to determine the method of propulsion or the nature or method of transmission of the power source involved. Research along these lines has been complicated by the complete absence of identifiable wings, propellers, jets, or other conventional methods of propulsion and guidance, as well as a total lack of metal components. See Attachment F. It is assumed that the propulsion unit was completely destroyed by the explosion which caused the crash. A need for as much additional information as possible about these craft, their performance characteristics and their purpose led to the undertaking known as the US Air Force Project Sign in 1947. In order to preserve security, liaison between Sign and Majestic 12 was limited to 2 individuals within the intelligence division of the Air Materiel Command, whose role was to pass along certain types of information through channels. Sign evolved into Project Grudge in December 1948. The operation is currently being conducted under the codename Blue Book, with the liaison maintained through the Air Force officer who is head of the project. On 6 December 1960, a second object, probably of similar origin, impacted the Earth at high speed in El Indio Guerrero area of the Texas-Mexican border after following a long trajectory through the atmosphere. By the time a search team arrived, what remained of the object had been almost totally incinerated. Such material as could be recovered was transported to the AEC facility at Sandia, New Mexico for study. Implications for the national security are of continuing importance in that the motives and ultimate intentions of these visitors remain completely unknown. In addition, a significant upsurge in the surveillance activity of these craft beginning in May and continuing through the autumn of this year has caused considerable concern that new developments may be imminent. It is for these reasons, as well as the obvious international and technological considerations and the ultimate need to avoid a public panic at all costs, that the Majestic 12 group remains of the unanimous opinion that imposition of the strictest security precautions should continue without interruption into the new administration. At the same time, Contingency Plan MJ 1949-04P/78, top secret eyes only, should be held in continued readiness should the need be to make a public announcement present itself. See Attachment G. The document then lists a number of attachments A to H. A. Special Classified Executive. B. Operation Majestic 12 status. C. Operation Majestic 12 status. D. Operation Majestic 12 preliminary. E. Operation Majestic 12 blue team. F. Operation Majestic 12 status. And G. Operation Majestic 12 contingency. H. Operation Majestic 12 maps and photograph folio extractions. And we then go on to one of those attachments, which I think is attachment D. So this is Preliminary Analytical Report, attachment D, part B, section 3, Preliminary Autopsy of Extraterrestrial Biological Entity, brackets S, 5th July 1947, page 1 of 4. From Dr. Detlev Bronk, Chairman, National Research Council, Atomic Energy Commission, Medical Advisory Board, Physiologist, Biophysicist, to President Truman. Subject: Preliminary Autopsy of Unidentified Cadavers, brackets multiple, time of death 23:30 hours approximately, date of death 4th July 1947. Place of death 45 miles northwest of Roswell, New Mexico. Time of preliminary autopsy 1600 hours, 5th of July 1947. Place: Roswell Army Air Force Base, Roswell, New Mexico. Purpose of this preliminary post-mortem examination is to determine the causes and manner of death, the origin of the entities, and the type of biological life form. Dr. Bronk is assisted by a noted forensic pathologist, Dr. Stanford, an Air Force pathologist, Major J.B. Johnson, Captain Miser, and Base Mortuary Affairs Officer and an anthropologist. Professor Frank Holden. Security personnel are stationed throughout the hospital and outside the operating room. Lieutenant General Nathan Twining, Commander of the Air Material Command at Wright Field, and Secretary of Defense Select James V. Forrestal are witnesses and will hand carry the report of the initial autopsy to the President of the United States. Unidentified debris of non-ferrous materials was discovered 75 miles northwest of Roswell by a local rancher, William Brazel, witnessed by his son and daughter. An early morning aerial search resulted in discovery of partially intact and severely damaged unidentifiable aerospace vehicle and unidentifiable bodies on 5th July 1947. An intelligence officer, Major Jesse A. Marcel, of the 509th Bomb Group Intelligence Office, was the first official of the government to recover the debris from the incident. Counterintelligence Officer Captain Sheridan Cavett of Air Intelligence T2 witnessed and assisted Major Marcel. Debris will subsequently be transferred to Wright Field in Dayton, Ohio, Sandia Base, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and classified location. The bodies appear identical in appearance, disregarding the damage sustained. One body appears to be undamaged, and the other four are severely damaged from the trauma of the crash, exposure, and predators. The cadavers support a disproportionately large cranium, appear to be Mongoloid Oriental by loose comparison. Each is clothed in what initially appears to be a garment made of a single piece of metallic material of unusual strength, yet retains pliability. No instrument available can cut or pierce the material. The material has a dull sheen and is silver in colour. 4 bodies have external dermal abrasions and carbonized areas around the face and cranium. The clothing on 2 of these bodies has separated it in sections that run along an undetectable seam from under the arm down to the feet. Another seam with partial opening runs from the neck down to the back to the buttocks. The bodies have been stored in a cooler at the base and transferred to the base infirmary for the post-mortem. The undamaged body is uncommonly warm to the touch. This is unusual since the other bodies are near freezing in temperature, and all bodies were removed from the cooler whose temperature is a constant 38 degrees Fahrenheit. Some sort of chemical action or reaction continues to take place in the undamaged body in order to produce an 89.3 degree Fahrenheit temperature. I have ordered each of the 4 damaged bodies to be placed in a hermetically sealed container and packed in dry ice for shipment to facilities more appropriate for examination. The undamaged body will be kept at 89.3 degrees Fahrenheit during shipment. No heartbeat or palpitation was observed, although some background noise or resonance can be heard through a stethoscope. No pulse or respiration can be detected. The bodies all weigh 56 pounds and the actual height of beings is 49.4 inches. The limbs are constantly tubular and no joints are discernible. The arms are 5.1 inches in circumference and the legs are 7.5 inches in circumference. The neck measures 10 inches and both the chest and hips measure 31 inches around, consistently from the torso down to the hips. The fingertips reach to where the knees should be, or mid-leg. The hands contain 4 long slender fingers with some webbing and no opposing digit such as a thumb. Each fingertip has 4 bumps or wart-like projections with concave centres. Function unknown. The cranium measures 22 inches maximum and there is no discernible jaw or cheekbones. A thin crease 1.25 inches wide, much like a scar, appears where the mouth should be. The mouth cavity is tiny and does not appear to function as a means of ingesting food or communication. No ears are visible, but a small 3/4 inch diameter bump protrudes 1/8 of an inch where the ears should be. 2 small openings appear where the nasal cavity should be and no visible structure exists for a nose. The small inwardly tapered nasal openings are slightly less than 1/8 of an inch in diameter. The head is firm but slightly pliable and responds to pressure similar to the feel of a human without the skin being loose. The eyes are of particular interest. On the damaged bodies they are wide spaced, teardrop in shape, with the point being at the edge of the skull. The deep set eyes are without eyelids or eyelashes and the eyes are solid, deep, dark brown in colour. An opaque film of milky colour coats each eye. The undamaged body is different. A dark, coarsely textured, flat, black, seamless almond-shaped apparatus covers each eye with no apparent attachment points. For a lack of better description, eyeglasses or sunglasses comes to mind. Perhaps this apparatus is an aid to distance viewing, blocking harmful solar radiation, enhanced spectrum detection, low light or infrared vision, or some other unknown use. There are no visible sexual organs or genitalia or other differentiating exterior signs of sex or mating capabilities, nor are there urinary or rectal openings. The bodies are bereft of hair, bumps, scales, and the skin has a texture of fine cotton cloth of an ivory parchment colour. Tiny lines run horizontally from the head to foot, much like record grooves, but smaller, and are only discernible through a magnifying glass or microscope. Of peculiar note is the fact that the Secretary Forrestal reported a buzzing sound in his skull and severe migraine, like pain on each occasion that he touched the undamaged body. He is the only one in attendance that reported such phenomena. No digestive system, no gastrointestinal tract, no alimentary or intestinal canal, no interior reproductive organs or other recognisable organs are present. One large G organ is present. Cause of death: acute blunt trauma. Blood, colourless, viscous, liquid, oozing, which smells like ozone and ammonia. A more detailed scientific report will be made available to the Secretary of Defence and the President. The following report will address analysing fluids, materials, gases and biological structures and functions of these beings. Upon examination in person, it does not take a leap of imagination to realise that these beings are alien extraterrestrial biological entities. Acronym EBE should be used as an interim for security measures. A special committee headed by the Secretary Defence or a presidential appointee should be formed for the express purpose of determining the impact upon national security. I hesitate to speculate upon the impact to civilization, religion, government or individual sanity if this information is prematurely released. The highest security should be maintained by all involved. God help us all.